Warning, this is a no, I can't say trigger warning. Trigger warnings need trigger warnings these days. Just a warning. I got opinions. Not afraid to share them. Hello, everybody. Well, I hope it's everybody, not just one or two, but hello and welcome to Banter and Breakdowns. I am actually just one of two co-hosts. Haven't actually seen Kelly yet. We're working on it. We actually stayed up very late and watched the finale of Love is Blind. Well, not the finale, the reunion last week, and recorded an episode for the podcast. Unfortunately, even though we spent about 3 hours trying to make it work prior to recording, didn't make it happen all the way. She literally had her on her mic and then somehow also on mine or something. But mind you, that fell on the cutting room floor. So, but she is coming, I swear. But in week 2 of my rant, I'm combining a couple of things. I'm combining my rant number 2 with my hot take on Tim from Love is Blind, because I've got a lot to say. So buckle up, because I'm probably gonna have a hot take on a few things and probably upset a few people and complete opposite feelings from some others. So buckle up. It may be a bumpy ride. All right. So before I really get into the Tim and Alex of it all, let me first start by saying these are my opinions on them, not accusations. They did enough of that themselves during the season and definitely during the finale. Not the finale, the reunion, which really wish we would have spent more time on them instead of Nick and Hannah, but that might be another rant. I don't know how I could have disliked either of those two more before the reunion, but I do, as do I think a lot of people. But anyway, let's get back to the Tim and Alex of it all. So I know there's been a lot of discussion online, especially on the social media platforms, and between the, I guess we're not podcasters, we're creators. I don't know what we are, but the people behind the mics, I know there's a lot of different opinions with them as well. So I'm just going to throw mine in, and here it goes. Both of them have issues during this season. Both of them have some growing up to do. And both of them probably are to blame for how they ended. But with that in mind, I'm going deep on Tim. So buckle up. And if you're easily offended, you might be offended by the end of this episode. So here's what I've got to say. Tim's demeanor on the reunion reminded me so much of a man I married on this very day 35 years ago today. Wow. Yeah. So if you're wondering, yes, I was a very, very young bride. And actually, he was 2 years younger than me. He was even younger. He basically almost had to get his mother's permission. That's how young we were. And at times, I saw myself in Alex during this reunion, and I'm going to explain why when we get there. Honestly, in my not so humble opinion, Tim gaslighted Alex at the reunion the entire time he spoke. Yeah, I said it. Gaslit her. You see, I was married to a very controlling, turned physically abusive man, but people who are controlling and really good at it are also very charismatic and know how to play the people outside of the bedroom. They hide it so well. So well that you often come out looking like the jerk. Not only that, but in my experience, my ex made my life so miserable in private that I couldn't even pretend to show an ounce of being happy or my usually bubbly, laughing self. And just a year before was voted best personality. I was that in school to someone who was a shell of herself. I didn't recognize myself and people didn't recognize me. So if you didn't know me, I look like an angry woman. I can't pretend. I'm just not that person. I could never be an actress. My feelings and my attitude show all over this face. And that's all people really saw because I didn't do a lot of talking, which that's probably the only time in my life I could say that. But I was always in fear wherever we went somewhere. The ride to, he often would start a fight with me, pick at me, often would try and go in ditches or say he was going to hit a wall on my side of the car to try and kill me. Things like that, that would obviously cause me to have certain feelings. And so going to church where I grew up, not at this particular church, but in my religion, and he not being religious at all until he married someone religious. And then we moved and he began preaching because he knew my religion did not approve divorce except for stepping out of your marriage. Now, you can abuse them, I guess. No, that's not what it really means. You can get divorced. You can't remarry. And I did that too. So batting 1,000 here. But then going from a car of being mistreated, belittled, put in fear, we'd go to church and he would get up there and preach some ridiculous thing about women having a place in the home, things like that. And he was not the preacher, just the preacher he became good friends with. So he could get up there and do his thing. And I looked like an evil biatch. I looked cold. I wouldn't speak to many people. I was just trying to hold it together, not to cry or make a scene, because then things would just get worse. I mean, you're talking about, so I can go on about how he controlled me and the abuse and stuff, but you'll have to just take my word on it. I'm not going to go there this conversation, but I am not afraid to talk about it. Matter of fact, it probably would help people when people would talk about their circumstances or how they got out of things. And I did get out of. I left once. Parents said, get some counseling before we file for divorce. Got some counseling, went back. His counselor thought he was the best thing since sliced bread because he'd been talking to her for 3 months until he answered some questions when I was there that she just couldn't believe. She thought he was joking. Like, what if I was drinking? He thought women who drank in public were asking to be sexually assaulted or they got what was coming to them. And so that was never to happen. And at that time, I never even drank. So go figure. But he told her he would go to the bar and grab me by the back of my head, my hair, and drag me out of that bar. And she laughed and she said, "No, I'm serious." And he said, "No, I'm serious too." And not until then did she see the real him. And she was educated, experienced counselor, seeing him alone for 3 months before I got there. They're very good at fooling you. Anyway, that's just to say that I saw myself several times in Alex at the reunion and her attitude and coming hard for him. That's exactly what a strong, outspoken woman will do when defending herself against the man who was emotionally abusive. And if you don't think control is abusive, I'm going to say you need to spend a little less time watching Love is Blind videos and maybe watch some educational videos on the variety of abuse and how to recognize them in others. Just do the world a favor. Tim told us who he was as early as the pods. If you'll recall that funny little conversation he had with the guys about his yellow sweater, which I particularly liked. I love that color yellow, especially on people who don't have my skin tone, because that is not a good look. But I thought it looked really nice on him, frankly. He is a nice looking man. But what he said was he bought the sweater because his ex-girlfriend hated the color. And he bought it for that purpose alone. Turns out he looked like he bought it for a few other colors as well, which we saw during the episodes, but I'm just guessing the yellow she didn't like. Similarly, he wanted to buy that straw, or looked like a straw, probably wasn't straw, the hat in Cabo, and Alex, was not having it. She wasn't feeling it. She said not to buy it, and he made the comment of him wanting to buy it just to wear it to annoy her. Yeah. You can read into that a little. You really don't even have to read into it very much now, do you? He said multiple times that he likes a woman who isn't afraid to push back and give it right back to him a little. I guess not that much. He also kept doing that whole stupid dog barking thing in the pods, you remember? And did it when they first met for the first time in person, the engagement. He kept doing it. I don't know what it was about, but it was annoying and childish and would have given me the ick, frankly. And she had asked him to stop doing it in the pods, but nope, it was his thing. And as for Alex, I'm not giving her a pass on everything, but today's rant is specifically discussing Tim's character for the most part. I do have a hot take on something, though. I will say, I wondered at the time I was watching it, and still now after the reunion, if Alex didn't actually go to her house and make that mess after they got back home from Cabo, before he saw it, whether to test him on it, to see how he'd react, to see, would that be a breaking point, see if he lost his mind, especially after she had already seen his immaculate house. Because honestly, people, I cannot imagine anyone letting their new man or woman, fiance, and cameras, which, is forever on Netflix, into that hot mess for millions of people to see forever. Well, unless she was actually just using that as some sort of a audition for hoarders. That's possible. But I just kept thinking that had to be staged. Like, she couldn't even really move around in that house. And I really do. I wonder if she was testing him or sticking it to him for, his whole attitude the weeks prior. I know I would do it. Just saying. Yeah, I'm petty like that. Now, let's talk about the unseen fight in Cabo and all the allegations that viewers and content creators have said about Alex putting her hands on Tim. And here's where I might lose some of you. Sorry, not sorry. You see, they both explained what happened at the reunion and why her hand ended up over his mouth. He confirmed it. And let's just say there's no love lost between the two of them. And yeah, he was gaslighting her, the whole thing, being extra sweet. But they both explained that it happened because they were in an argument. They were having raised voices. And he admittedly on the show, on the reunion, said he didn't want to be seen as an angry black man, which I completely understand. And frankly, let's face it, they probably would have portrayed him that way. And no, I'm not portraying him that way. I haven't said he's angry, controlling. And a lot of times, a controlling person is not angry. They're smooth sailing. They got to keep it in control so they can control. So I'm not saying he's an angry black man at all. I don't know what that fight was really about. I can understand her being upset about her dad being put in a home just 1 week before that she left, and it had been 3 weeks since they spoke. I recently lost my father, so I get it. I was a daddy's girl for sure. And so I would be the same way. And I could see him not giving her the space that she asked for. Absolutely can understand how that happens. He likes control. He's not someone who wants her having her own feelings on her own time alone. Yeah, that tracks if you're following along with your playbook. That's pretty common. He's got to be in control and know what's going on. So he probably would not give her the space and the grace alone that she so desperately wanted, which is why she's frustrated and they probably got loud. But let me be clear. Both of them also said it was not malice or abuse. And as far as Tim losing his mind because she called him out of his name, get over it, Tim. I mean, get over yourself. I mean, I'm not sure how you've lived over 30 years without anyone ever calling you a bad name in the past. I mean, I sure wish I could say the same. And I grew up in a household that never cursed. So it wasn't my family. Heck, I've only had one long-term relationship that has not called me names and demeaned me or been cruel. Yeah, I know what you're thinking. Nope. If you're paying attention, not a good picker. Or I certainly wasn't. I just quit picking altogether. But what you're wanting me to believe, Tim, is that in a society where the F-bomb can be dropped hundreds, if not more, of times in an episode or a movie. I mean, even on Netflix, anyone see Love Island last season? I mean, goodness, that ought to come with a language warning. So in that type of society where cursing is, you want me to believe, as someone who had been in the Navy, where you have heard of the term cursing like a sailor. A sailor is from the Navy. But you're wanting me to believe that even in the Navy, a man never called you out? In school, any relationship, you've never had someone call you out of your name? I'm just not buying it. I just don't believe that. Especially seeing you. And I have strong opinions on this next topic. Her story and his agreement of how it happened makes sense to me of just how that even occurred. And furthermore, and let me be real clear on that, that was not an assault nor abusive behavior. It was not. Ask anyone who has been physically abused, and they will also confirm that was not assault. And frankly, let me get on a little soapbox right now, because to me, it diminishes and insults those who have been physically abused. To compare something like putting your hand over someone's mouth when they are having a discussion and not wanting to be heard by producers, even if that wasn't the case, even if producers weren't out the door with cameras. Doing this, I mean, I can't even tell you the number of times people have done that to me just because I talk a lot. It wasn't aggressive. It wasn't abusive. It was placing a hand. You need to back the truck up, people, because you're trying to tell the world that that is abuse or assault. I can appreciate people's concerns and conversation and knowing we've come a very long way as a society in the last 5 years or so. But I think this world overcorrected. I really do. Now we categorize anything as assault. Many things that are so far from assault, it's shameful. And what's even more shameful is ruining someone's life by accusing them of assault when at best it was a misunderstanding. And when neither of them considered abuse or assault, and they're not under duress by trying to cover up something. I mean, it's no wonder that men are scared to pursue a woman today. They no longer know if it's even considered stalking if they ask a woman out more than once. But yet, women, for the most part, we like to play hard to get. We like you to pursue us, matter of fact. We like to be wooed, which usually means you're going to need to ask us more than once and maybe even be a little forward and maybe be a little assertive, not aggressive. And now all that would be considered crossing lines. I mean, my favorite cartoon character is now banned. Pepe Le Pew was sexually assaulting the freaking cat and has been taken out of rotation. Anybody else notice that? Ridiculous. Ridiculous. I mean, have I said ridiculous? Because it's ridiculous. So don't get things twisted. There's a difference in assault and pursuing someone, and certainly from stalking. Just like there's a difference in covering someone's mouth when they are talking too loud and you're trying to keep the cameras and producers away, than being physically aggressive and doing it in a controlling fashion. There's a difference. There's a difference. There's a difference. Ask someone who knows, because we'll be happy to tell you the difference. I could share with you some real crazy first date stories that would be hard to believe, that were certainly extremely unacceptable behavior by a man. Both times that I would share with you were both sexually inappropriate for a first date, but neither of those would I define as assault. Very unacceptable. Neither men ever heard from me again, but neither were abusive or assault. And maybe it's time we really defined that in a more clear and rational way. The Me Too movement, perfect. We deserved it. We earned it. We certainly were justified in it. And a lot has come out. But ladies and some men, we know the difference, or we should. And if you've never been abused, a real abuse of laying hands on you, what they call really laying hands on you, you'd know the difference. Just maybe have another conversation if your idea of what happened in that bathroom with her cupping her hand over his mouth. Take another minute. Maybe we all need to recalibrate what we think or what we determine, especially legally, is abuse or assault. It ruins lives when you falsely accuse someone or you wrongfully accuse them of assault when it was not assault. We got enough people in prison. We got enough wrongfully convicted people in prison. Okay, getting off my soapbox, sorry. Just felt very strongly about that topic. But back to Tim. As for the parents' meetups and Tim being upset that not only did he go out and buy the groceries for what had to be lunch, because they both said they had dinner that later that night alone. That's where he said he had doubts. But Tim also cooked the meal and cleaned the dishes. First of all, did he cook the meal? So the only thing I saw him cooking was grilling, and most men prefer to be the grill master, especially if other people are coming over. It's an ego thing. And if you believe that there are controlling aspects, characteristics in Tim, you better believe he is not going to let the woman be the grill master when he's there. So I don't know what he cooked except for the grill, steaks and chicken, I think. I forget. But again, that's also something that I think he would have done regardless. Most men handle the grill. Now, he did fix their plates. It was a little surprising for Alex to ask him to do that. Yep, it was weird, but it made me think all that episode, or her in his meeting with her parents, was to build him up to be a good man. That's why they had to lie about being engaged before he asked her dad for her hand. That's why he did the cooking and showing a great first impression was important to Alex, and obviously also to Tim. We've all been there, haven't we? So I think her asking him to make the plates was one of these weird, look at my man taking care of us, giving service to my family. Cleaning the dishes, I don't know how that went down. She might have been taking a nap at that point. I don't know. But I know in my house, I grew up this way. I live my adult life this way. If there's more than one of us, the cook don't clean. It's just the rules. So I don't know how or why that came down. I can't even say that he didn't say, no. You spend some more time with your parents. I'll take care of the kitchen. Anybody think that sounds probable? Possible? Yeah. Making a good first impression on the in-laws there. All the while, taking note. She didn't put up much of a fight when he said that. She just said, okay, thank you. Maybe. But he was logging it. There's so much we can read into conversations we don't always hear or see or know someone's perspective or what they're really implying. We don't know the context of everything. We don't know their heart. So it's hard to come here and judge and say what we think happened and be hard on someone when we don't know the full story. And that's why I'm saying Tim may not be controlling. His characteristics and my experience and my research and my years of knowledge tell me that he is. But that's my opinion. I cannot condone anything that either of them have done that was perceived in poor light. But I think we also have to keep in mind that we don't know the full story. You know how they always say, you don't know what goes on behind closed doors. You certainly don't know what goes on behind Love is Blind when the cameras are down, and a lot goes down while the cameras are down. They don't have cameras 20, and a lot happens off camera. I mean, if this season didn't teach us that, I don't know what season that would. There were so many conversations that happened off camera and that they had to relive a weird summary on camera, which was just awkward, but it happened often, several times. We got the Steven situation. We got at least one with the two of them, Alex and Tim, probably several. Who knows how many there could have been with Nick and Hannah. And we definitely know at least two with Ashley and Tyler. I said Steven, right? And Monica. Yeah. So lots of weird things happened this season where cameras were down. I don't know. I think they tape 2 seasons back to back or at the same time. So I believe they may have already been filming the one we just watched from Charlotte, I think, if I remember that correctly. So I don't know if that's why they don't video all the time. Maybe they should do the whole Love Island thing and put cameras everywhere and call it a day. You don't have to have somebody there. But I want to go back to the Alex and Tim family meetings. Now to Tim's family or parents, and what was the needle that broke the camel's back, so to say. Tim felt disrespected so much that he couldn't get past it because she had the audacity to take an hour nap while his parents were there. And he had mentioned that they had been there. Well, they drove like, I don't know, it was 10 to 14 hours. It was either 10 to 12 or 12 to 14, whatever. It was a long drive. I don't know how many, if it was a straight through, if it was a stop overnight. I don't know. It doesn't really matter. But then we find out that the reason that she took the nap was because she was working later that night, 9 to 3. So an overnight shift. And so she would like to take an hour nap before she left. And she had, to even Tim's account, spent 4 or 5 hours with his parents, who, honestly, I would have been falling asleep sitting with his parents. They seemed so lackluster, so uninterested. The father looked like he was napping half the time. They had a very odd relationship, the parents. She either dismissed his comments a lot or he dismissed hers. I can't remember which, but I found it odd and a little uncomfortable. So I can only imagine maybe she felt that way as well. But certainly I would have been way over it 4 or 5 hours in. So yeah, cameras go down, I'm taking a nap. Sorry, I got to work in 2 hours. His whole thing about, oh my gosh, you didn't bring my parents a gift or flowers or whatever his rant was about that. Okay, I get that. But did you ask her to? Because she told you how to treat her family and what she expected out of you. You know what they say about assuming, right? Don't assume she knew what you expected. Because honestly, I probably would have brought something. But you have to keep in mind, normally that happens when you go to someone's home. You bring them a gift. You bring them a housewarming gift. You bring them flowers. If you're having dinner with them, you bring them wine, whatever. That's not what they were doing. They were already there, and the parents came to them. So I'm not sure what he would have expected her to bring them or have there already. I don't know. Now, one thing I did find odd, certainly at the time it happened, was her having one hand in her pocket. I don't mean Alanis Morissette. While giving his mom and possibly his dad, I can't remember, a hug when she first met them. Definitely was surprising. Not sure why. I don't know. I can't remember if she explained that. I don't remember her explaining that at the reunion. I doubt he even knew that happened until watching it. I don't think he could see that. I don't know if she was acting that way because she was upset. They had gotten into it before. I don't know. She was still upset that he told her the night before that he had doubts. Possibly. I don't know why. But it was definitely passive aggressive. She was being passive aggressive and childish at the moment. I didn't say she got off the hook, right? But if you're going to put marks and keep track of things, guess who's got more marks? And marks aren't good, if you're wondering. Honestly, to me, Tim seems like a man in many aspects, but one who can throw some tantrums when he doesn't get his way. And they may look different than Leo's tantrum that he had in the pods with Hannah, but they're still tantrums, just the same. I mean, his breakup speech alone, tantrum. The way he spoke to her was childish and demeaning, and he just said, I never want to see you again. He knew he was about to see her like the next night at that Roaring Twenties get together, right? And he'd see her at the reunion. From my understanding, they have not spoken before or after breaking up, and except for at the reunion. And I agree, there's no need to. Not one single need. Nope, no good would come of that. They are not meant for each other. And lastly, for those who have been talking about, look how calm, cool, and collected he was at the reunion. Well, y'all aren't paying attention, really. Sorry, you're just not. He was so wound up. You could see it in his face. He kept being a bit passive aggressive with his little remarks to the side, all the while saying the right things. I loved you. Why are you doing this to me? But his face and his neck were saying something completely different. And sometimes his hand. But you're not paying attention because he was holding on for dear life. So wound up. Just stay still. Stay in the moment where your mask, it doesn't fall down for millions of people to see who you really are. Because Tim, I see you. I see you. So there you have it, people. I did warn you. I had a hot take, and I was probably going to frustrate and anger some of you for my opinions, and that's what they are. And everybody seems to have one, so I thought I'd share. But at least I'm willing to come to this and say their opinions, and I am not so closed off from listening and educating myself to see a different way if I'm wrong. And hopefully more of you do the same, because, you can't be closed off from just thinking you're always right. I mean, I'd like to think I'm always right. I always tell people I'm always right. Sometimes. I mean, I'm usually right. So, in conclusion, if you're still here and you haven't been cursing me out the whole time, I'd love it if you could please hit that like button, the thumbs up, subscribe, share this video, because Banter and Breakdowns is a new podcast, new channel. This is just the second episode I've put out. But we are planning to have a weekly show, Kelly and I together. And that should start this week or maybe next week. But every single like, every single view, every single subscription matters. And I will tell you that not only that, watching it till the end also is tremendously important for getting views and for it to be sent out for more people to find. Didn't know that one. So hopefully it was entertaining or interesting enough that you did stick around. But just know, for even not just my podcast or channel, but everyone else's, even if you're not going to watch the whole thing, just walk away. Just let us run. Just let all their shows play. It helps them a lot. If I could just go and have every one of the shows that I've done that for, not because I thought they deserved it because of that, but just because I usually will always watch a show throughout. That's just my ADD in me. And I have watched thousands of hours of YouTube. most of them have cost me a fortune because I start whatever hobby I was watching. Hence my hobby room. One of 2 hobby rooms. Like I said, fortune. But if I could just get any of those, all of those people just to come and watch a video, like and subscribe, man, this would be what they consider going viral. But hopefully this didn't scare off too many people and you liked maybe what I had to say or my perspective on things and my openness and willing to learn and talk about things. Then I would ask you to join us for more videos and collaborations and whatever we have coming up. And please like, subscribe, and watch all the way through and share it with your friends. But until then, later, alligator. Bye-bye. Was that too much? Yeah, it was probably too much. Story of my life. Did I mention I have a co-host? Because evidently I have cut that out of anything I've recorded and posted, according to my co-host, Kelly. Because I was saying how I keep mentioning it, and she said, no, I've listened to every one of them more than once, and you've never mentioned me one time. To my defense, I definitely have, but I cut out, 90% of what I talk about because I can talk. And I probably did that. Yeah, but I definitely have mentioned it, and I definitely have put it in the inputs and the outputs that I've created and posted. So she's all over it. She's not invisible. We will be making a podcast soon. We tried and failed, which I'll talk about in this episode, I hope, unless I cut it out. This camera will make you paranoid. I never thought my front teeth looked like chiclets before. I mean, they're pretty small, but wide, I guess. And I never noticed that I lose my top lip completely when I smile. And of course, I talked about this thing right here. That has happened since I've become 50. I never thought I'd need an Invisalign, but I'm gonna get it because I'm just that vain. This is ridiculous.
Two women strong with hearts so bright, sharing thoughts and shades of light. Reality and crime collide. Join the